This segment of Labatt Buffalo Main Event is brought to you by
Kaz Electronics, your gadget source with referral rewards.
We're back on Labatt Buffalo Main Event. Brad Ryder along with Bob Gaughan. Our guest this week, Alan Wilson of the Buffalo News. Alan, of course, covers the Buffalo Bills, and the Bills were very active in the first few days of NFL free agency, not just by signing players, but also making a trade. First off, surprising?
Stunned would be the word I'd use. But at the same time, you look at what they needed. They had to get a big guy in the middle of that defensive line. I'm sure we can all say that we're tired of seeing them get pushed around up front. And getting a guy like Marcus Stroud from Jacksonville for what they got for him, a third and a fifth, could turn out to be a huge steal for him.
Were there any concerns about his injury for you?
There are some concerns there. Talking to some people in Jacksonville, they kind of felt like maybe, he was starting to go on a decline because of that injury. And also, there's some thought that because he signed that 5-year, $31 million contract in 2005, that maybe he had lost a little bit of fire in his belly. But I think the Bills are getting a very motivated guy because he's heard a lot of those stories that he may be on a decline. And I think he wants to come up here and prove to people he can still be a Pro Bowl caliber player.
What about the 4-game substance abuse suspension? Is that a concern?
Well, I think it's a concern only from the standpoint of, is it a habitual thing? And from what I understand, he took a supplement that was tainted with a substance that's banned by the NFL.
Twice, though? Doesn't it take two?
It does take two.
Didn't Roger Clemens use that excuse, too?
Yeah. Although I think Roger misremembered exactly how much he made. But I think it is concerning because obviously if you get popped again, then the penalty is much more severe. And I'll just say this. Even if he flops for the Bills, I don't think he will, but even if he flops, it was worth the gamble for the Bills. Sure. It is no question, without question, it's worth the gamble.
That's the one thing I'm amazed with all three contracts. To me, all very reasonable, and if one does happen to flop, it's not like you're just up against the wall.
Exactly. I think that's one of the things that they're trying to do. They want to be aggressive, but they also want to be fiscally responsible. And they've done that in all of the signings that they've made so far.
Surprising that you can be fiscally responsible as early on in free agency as this. I know last week we talked about the right plan heading into free agency, and I thought sort of sit on the sidelines while the big contracts get thrown out there, and once that's done, then go and make your moves. But these are reasonable moves made quickly. I'm impressed by the way the organization is being run, because there had to be questions going in with Marv Levy out as general manager.
Well, I think one of the things that has kind of transpired in the league is that a lot of teams have re-signed their best free agents, or they franchised their best free agents. And therefore it created a market to where the best plan was maybe even to go out and make trades as opposed to trying to sign guys. And last year we saw with Derek Dockery and Langston Walker, they were kind of frontline free agents. When they got into town, you almost had to overpay to get those guys, because if they left town, chances are they weren't coming back. So I think that was one of those differences from last year to this year.
Kavika Mitchell, talk about him. Where do you think he plays, and where does that put the Bills' three linebackers in terms of rate them within the league?
Well, he's a versatile guy, 6'1", 253 pounds. Obvious difference in size from Keith Ellison. He will start on the weak side. Now you have a combination of Mitchell, you got Posluszny in the middle, and you got Angelo Corwell on the strong side. That potentially could be a very good linebacker core. But again, if you got big guys in the middle, ask Brian Urlacher, ask Ray Lewis what it means to have big guys in front of them. Those guys are beasts, in part because they don't have blockers coming at them all the time when they're trying to get to the ball carrier.
There is talk from the Bills already, or ongoing talk, I guess, about acquiring some size at the wide receiver position, and I expect that to happen over the course of the next couple of days. It really seems like that will take place. If that happens, and you add that in with all the acquisitions that have already taken place, what is the next need for this Bills team? Obviously, we're not talking about a team that went 13-3, but suddenly they look pretty solid from top to bottom.
Well, the receiver you're mentioning is Bryant Johnson, a 6'3", 216-pound guy from Arizona. Third wheel in that offense last year because of the fact they got Anquan Bolden and Fitzgerald. So, and he still caught over 40 passes over the last 3 years. So you would be getting a productive guy, a guy who can make plays down the field. He's got deceptive speed, and he's physical. What that would do is now you only have tight end. You have cornerback as maybe your two primary needs. Now they're trying to bring in Ben Troop, free agent tight end from Tennessee, to come in for a visit. He's a good receiving tight end, a guy who can stretch the middle of the field for you. If you get him too, now all of a sudden you can kind of sit back the rest of this offseason and start focusing more on the draft, because now you have a lot of flexibility in where you can go. You can go cornerback, or you can just sit there and say, hey, 11th, let's take the best player available, regardless of position.
Or the best package available in the trade.
Oh, no question.
Now, talk about Spencer Johnson. He was the third wheel in Minnesota behind two very good defensive tackles. And what do you think he brings to the team?
Well, he's a little underrated player. He played mainly in pass rush situations. He's a guy who can collapse the pocket from the inside. And obviously playing with either Pat Williams or Kevin Williams in Minnesota, it's not hard to make some impact playing beside those two guys. But I think he gives them good depth. Now you have him and Kyle Williams backing up McCargo and Stroud. Maybe you keep Jason Jefferson only in emergency situations would he play in this scenario. But he's a good three-technique tackle, a guy who can certainly help them because, they want to play 4 or 5 defensive tackles on a regular basis. So now you have a situation where Stroud doesn't have to play 60 snaps. You don't have McCargo having to play as many snaps. They'll be fresher in the fourth quarter, which is where you really need those guys to be effective.
We've only got a few seconds left. Are the Patriots catchable this year?
Well, what they're doing so far, they're making themselves catchable. I mean, if they lose Randy Moss, that was maybe a bad gamble on their part, not franchising him. I know why they did it. They didn't want to tick him off. But the fact that it seems to me they're lowballing him right now. He could leave. They've already lost, another receiver, Dante Stallworth. They've lost 2 cornerbacks. They are starting to fall back to the pack right now. And what the Bills have done and what the New York Jets have done, I think that they're feeling very confident that maybe they can catch the Patriots this year.
Alan Wilson of the Buffalo News, our guest. We'll be back in just a moment to wrap things up with our commentary on the Bat Buffalo main event.
It's so normal to feel this overwhelming pressure to just have to do it all. We understand what that's like. Bristol Home and Bristol Village and any other residents that's out there will tell you we see it every day, day in and day out. Families come in, and usually it's at that point where they say, we just don't know what to do anymore. So think about it. Don't feel as though you're alone, and ask for help. Early intervention is key. Planning ahead is key.
Bristol Home and Bristol Village. Assisted living where family matters.